I'm going to play for you now an interview that I did with Lindy Morrison from the Go-Betweens and various other projects, and also Rob Snarski, who's been in lots of things as well, Blackeyed Susans, the Chads, and has a recent release called Searching for the Heart of It All, as I just mentioned. I spoke to them via Zoom on Monday evening and we discussed lots of things, so I'm going to play that for you now. Hi, Rob. How are you?
That was a nightmare. Because I've been away, I haven't opened up my laptop and it was downloading about 2,000 messages.
Updates and such.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Well, you know what, Rob? I've been sitting here since 10:02 because I know that mistakes can happen.
You're organised. Incredible.
Yeah,
Have you got a fan?
No, I do actually. I've got that fan that I bought and that I took to Melbourne when I drove to Melbourne. Romana, I drove to Melbourne from Sydney.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Wow,
because
for the sake of saving the band money. That's dedication.
But I did it because I wanted to take my own kit for once, and also I bought a fan. A really nice little, really modern. It's just like a tube. It's white.
I saw on I think it was on Facebook and some social media that you guys have had a bit of fun with the fan motif throughout the sort of gigging series that you've been doing. Where did that all start with the fan? Just obviously you're a fan of the fan and.
Well, I do like to have a fan, and because it makes my hair blow and I look so much better. So I started saying to Rob I needed a fan. And then I think, did I do it first off spec, Rob, or did you?
No, what happened was we thought we should, I guess, take the piss out of being in a band in a more kind of Seinfeld way. So we started having these sort of discussions. In fact, Lindy and I have these discussions anyway that are kind of fairly sort of dry and just ridiculous about the industry and what we're doing and so forth. And instead of it just being a conversation between the two of us, we decided that maybe we should film them and have a bit of a dialogue, have a bit of a script, and then sort of go off the script and just make things up as off the top of your head as you go along. And that's exactly what happened, really, wasn't it?
Yes, except we're not actually talking to each other. We're pretending to talk to each other.
Yeah.
But
a lot of the conversation, especially in the early part, it was basically taken from dialogue that we'd had, because sometimes in this industry it is Spinal Tap, and I kind of believe what Tom Waits said when he saw Spinal Tap. He cried because it's true, and it is true.
It is.
So I did one in the car. I did one first thing in the morning in my pajamas. I did one on a bus. I did one walking through a shopping centre, and the final one, which was the best one and the last one we've done, I was in the bath. So I've just washed my hair, and it's I'm only from the shoulders up.
Yeah.
It's outrageous, but it's the best one. But I don't know where we can go from there now.
Yeah, you're going to have to up the ante there somehow and do something else to keep it all going.
Because we need to, because we're going to Perth.
Yes.
We're going to
something specifically for the Perth audience, maybe.
Mm.
How old
is the show? Romana.
Sorry, what was that? You'll have to come up with something.
You've got us thinking now.
How are all the shows going? You've done quite a few now, so you've been touring around a bit.
Good. We've been sort of having guests at each show, and it's varied the night a little bit. In Melbourne, we had Dan Kelly join us, both in Castlemaine and the Melbourne shows, and Rosie Westbrook, the double bass player, joined us in Archie's Creek. And in Perth, we'll have a couple of old buddies of mine coming up and singing and playing bass and that sort of thing. So I like that. I like sort of opening it up and making it a bit different for each audience. As you know, in Adelaide, we had Carl play with us, and I've known Carl for a very long time, but I've never played with him, nor have I seen any of his bands or heard any of his bands. But
Okay.
he's the guy who was standing at the back of the room with his mate Jaron, shouting out for Will's Blues every time we played either in the Blackeyed Susans or me in sort of solo mode. So I just thought I'll ask him and see if he wants to sort of hop on board and play bass, and that was great.
He was so nervous.
He was a bit nervous.
He was so nervous.
I looked at his hands at one point, and they were physically trembling as he was moving along the fretboard. But that was, I find that kind of joyful, and the fact that his kid was there as well and loved it instead of like, his kid's really funny. It's like, he can't really be bothered being there. What am I doing here with my dad? Playing rock and roll.
Yeah.
And then he seemed to really enjoy it, and he was beaming by the end of the night. So I think he made his kid proud. That was nice to see.
It was a good show. I was saying to Lindy, it was a really fun show that I came along and watched it, but it's the matinee show that I went to.
Yes.
And that was good fun.
We try and put on a bit of a show, and a lot of the comments are sort of off the cuff, and Lindy always barks in and says something that's completely dismissive of me or puts me down. But it's the
best bit of the show.
That's right. That's right. I love being abused. I love it, Lindy.
I was going to say that guy gave me the cymbals in.
That's right.
Yeah. I mean, unbelievably generous. That was so lovely of him, and they're perfect for Rob's music, because Rob's music is so gentle, and they're thin, very crisp, bell-like cymbals.
And
those two Adelaide shows were really great, and I think it sort of brought the band together and saw the fact that there's a bit of a future in what we do here. We had a really great weekend, so thank you, Adelaide.
And thank you for visiting us too, because some people don't. So it's good that you've come to Adelaide to play a show. You and Lindy, or Rob and Lindy and Rob, you've known each other for a long time now. When did you first meet, and what was your first impression of each other?
Do you want me to answer this, Lindy? Because you don't remember.
I remember aspects of meeting you. So you go first, and then I'll chime in.
We met in 1983. I was playing in a band with my brother. It was the first band I ever played in, called Chad's Tree. Now, Chad's Tree got offered the Go-Betweens tour, not one show or two shows, but all 4 shows in WA, simply because the promoter, Neil Wedd, thought we were the most appropriate act that was going around Perth at the time. And I remember, being a little awestruck. I was still a teenager, and I think I had Send Me a Lullaby in my record collection, and the Go-Betweens breezed into town on the strength of Before Hollywood and its leading track, Cattle and Cane. So I remember the distinct moment of hearing Cattle and Cane and thinking what an incredible sounding song it was. And so there we are at the Red Parrot in WA, 1983, about to meet the Go-Betweens, and I'm probably shaking in my boots a little bit and nervous and just saying things that probably didn't make a lot of sense. Robert Forster's telling me how much he loved the Melbourne support band, the Moodists. He'd fallen for them. And Lindy was there, and she was really chatty and vivacious and lovely, and kind of the opposite to what I was kind of expecting. I thought there might have been a bit of that status that you get when you're the support act, but they were really friendly people. And just made us feel kind of comfortable. I mean, they did say one thing at one point, which was like, "Are there no other bands in Perth? How come you guys have got all 4 shows?"
I can't believe that wouldn't have been me. I wouldn't have said that. But
It might have been Robert. It might have been Grant. I can't remember either who said that. But
I remember. I do remember Chad Street, and I remember Rob. He really was very, very young, and very, like very childlike. He was, quite naive, and definitely shy. So yes, I remember that about him. But I was very drawn to him. I thought he was a really lovely person.
And have you? Oh, she does like you. You've both obviously been performing in a number of different bands over the years and different sorts of things. What, in your opinion, makes for a good performance?
Well, that's a great question. Well, the first thing is that you've got to be kind of happy and cheery. You can't be in a bad mood, so you've got to be up. Although I have performed in a bad mood, but you've got to be up. But you've really got to be able to be relaxed and play in the moment. You can't be distracted because you've really got to listen. You've got to listen so hard, and you've got to accommodate these other players that are on stage, and in particular with the drums, you can't be too loud. So you're constantly thinking, how loud am I, and yet still trying to retain a beautiful beat and being in that moment with them. Not a lot goes on in your head except thinking about the music. That's why performance is so extraordinary, because you're completely in a moment. There's nothing else. There is no better place to be than on a stage, because nothing else can affect you. You've just got to play music as perfectly as you can. And if you're not in that state, that's when you'll do a bad performance.
It's when you make mistakes.
Yeah, I think
Well, being a professional means that you can make mistakes. You do make mistakes, but being a professional means that when you make a mistake, you recover without anyone ever noticing.
And the fact that the audience is on a ride with you, I think you sort of know when you're going to have a good show within the first 2 or 3 songs, and it really depends on how the audience is responding to you. And obviously a lot depends on how the mechanics of the day have gone, the technical aspect of it. You've got to make sure the mix is, in tune with what you want, and you're happy on stage. And therefore, if you're happy on stage, there's more of a chance the audience is going to be happy with the sound that's being produced as well, and how you play, I think. In my humble opinion.
Both good answers. I just wanted to talk a little bit about the album as well, and I'll have a few more questions that maybe you haven't been asked before after that. But with the album Searching for the Heart of It All, you've had a lot of collaborations with different people and people singing your songs and playing on the album. Did you have specific people in mind before that, before the album? Or yep,
I certainly did. I knew that when I wrote My Friend Too, I wanted Romy Vega to sing it, and same with Give the Man a Coin, Gareth Lydiard. I kept You'll See the Moon for myself, but really I thought of Peter Milton Walsh from The Apartments to sing that song, but I was very selfish and kept it for myself. It was my favourite song on the record. And I wanted Rebecca to sing Feeling Kind of Blue as well. So, look, they're all people that I have come across in my time, and people I'm friendly with. And And I think after spending so many months with song gifts, I don't know if you know about this project, Romana, but I started a project in lockdown called Song Gifts, and I recorded a lot of songs and heard my voice a lot. And I was a bit tired of it, and I also wanted to mimic the way I listen to music these days. So there's a lot of playlists and, streaming that goes on in my world these days. And I thought, wouldn't it be interesting to make a record that was kind of like that? And obviously, you can't vary the music as much as you can on the streaming platforms, but I wanted to try and emulate that to some degree and give it more variety. So that was the main objective of the project.
Mm-hmm. When did you ask Lindy to become involved?
We had a funny episode. I was doing some shows with Peter Milton Walsh, tag teaming in Sydney, and Lindy had a big Friday afternoon, so she was a little under the weather, shall we say. She'd had a liquid lunch and
with an old music journalist who moved to Broken Hill called Jack Marks. So he was he'd been living at Broken Hill. He's still there, and he'd come into town, and I had a very big lunch.
So Lindy was at the show, and she'd seen Peter and myself, and she came up to me, and there were tears, and she said to me, "I don't think I can see you perform anymore. Your songs are too sad. Goodbye." And then 2 weeks later, it wasn't very long at all, but maybe 2 or 3 weeks later, I'm playing in Canberra, and I get an email from Lindy saying, "Hey, you and Peter are playing in Canberra. I'm thinking of coming down." Oh, okay. Well, look, how about you sit in on some of these songs? Just bring a snare and brushes and play along and see how we go. And it kind of stemmed from that, really. So it stemmed from saying, "I'm never going to see you again," to her playing with me and me playing with her. So
actually,
how did these things work?
That gig in Canberra wasn't great. Because I was just playing brushes in a traditional sense. There was no kick drum. It was very flat. It was very lateral. It was very lacking in dynamics. But and I do feel sorry for the Canberrians that we were rehearsing on them. And I hope they'll have us back. but those 50 people will probably never come again, Rob.
I don't know about that. I thought you won a lot of hearts that night. But that was interesting because we spoke about that afterwards, and Lindy said, "Well, I've got to be able to express myself as well. I mean, it's not only, playing your songs, but I've got to be able to be artistic within these songs and change them to the way I hear them and pattern that I can think up and be creative with." And I really kind of respected that, because there's no point in just playing along, really, is there?
Is that a rhetorical question?
No, it's a question.
Just
No, there's not. I do need to express myself, and I thought that, because sometimes it's just the two of us. I need to be doing something special, and but without interfering with the song. It's a hard balance.
It's good, though. We've come up with some I haven't come up with anything, but Lindy's come up with some incredible drum patterns that no one but herself would come up with. I mean, Lindy has such an idiosyncratic style. It's really recognisable, and some of the songs have just gotten better and better as we've continued to play.
when I first saw you drum, Lindy, it was just on a film clip when I was a teenager, when I was going through looking at history of bands and like getting into different stuff. I had a major crush on you as a drummer.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it's such a pleasure to speak with you today. But yeah, that was a while ago, and I didn't think I'd ever meet you or anything like that.
Oh.
So there you go.
Oh, I'm so flattered. Thank you so much. That is so touching.
Yeah.
It's very touching to hear that. Thank you.
Yeah. So it's wonderful to watch you perform as well, and it was a real pleasure seeing Rob and yourself play at the Wheat Shift. So I saw you there, but I was like, no, I can't. I can't talk.
Really?
So, it's much easier via Zoom.
He's very intimidating.
Yeah, I'm like, no, I can't do it. Sorry. So, so there you go. But, and the first, I did buy that very early Go-Betweens release, and that was the first thing I listened to. And I used to listen to Your Turn, My Turn, quite a lot.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. And it's so simple, that song. The simplicity of that is so extraordinary. And I just recently I think I put it up on YouTube, and I was just saying, like, how extraordinarily brave, we were because the three of us could barely play, And I remember Tony Cohen in an interview said, and I was recording the Go-Betweens, Your Turn, My Turn. It was my first time into a studio. And he said, and Lindy was doing Lindy's drumming, and it was a kind of, it was a bit icky what he was saying, I think. And the thing is, it works. It's so beautiful. It's so simple. And that it supports the song so much, and only someone who wasn't skilled could ever play with that sort of simplicity. I just love those early records for that. You couldn't bluff that stuff.
No. That's what I liked about it so much, I think, when I first heard it. And I still, listen to things from time to time now, but I just thought I'd mention that because, I'm
really flattered, so thank you very much.
Oh, you're welcome. And I just have a couple more questions before I'll just wrap it up. But I really like the song Poor Florence Broadhurst on the album. And so I hadn't actually heard of Florence Broadhurst before. I hadn't gone down that sort of path, but then I looked her up, and it's an incredible story. Where did you first come across that, Rob?
I was wearing a Florence Broadhurst designed shirt, and it was the album launch for Sparrow and Swan, and Rebecca Barnard said to me, "You're wearing Florence Broadhurst tonight." And I didn't realise. So she said, "Oh, you've got to read about her, and you've got to see this film, and she's such an incredible character, and so creative, and she had a really tragic demise." And I thought, oh God, I better read about her. And I did exactly that, and then saw a documentary, and I thought she was worthy of writing a song about. I mean, she was such a colourful character, and I don't know, I just thought she was worthy. And I guess to never find her killer was so unsatisfying for the police and for friends and family. I don't know, unsolved murders, God, there's so many, I guess, but because she was an Australian woman and died in Sydney, I thought I'd grasp it and give it a go.
Did you see a documentary?
Yeah. Did you see the documentary?
Is that the one where they were kind of angling for that a priest might have done it?
No, that's if I'm correct, that might be more of a Melbourne-based.
Oh yeah. That's another story.
No,
have to edit that.
They're angling that a homeless person, the angling that a homeless person may have killed Florence Broadhurst. But of course, the police arrived at this scene, and there's 2 cups of tea and a lump of wood and a pool of blood. So it was sort of insinuated that she knew her murderer, and that was spine-chilling. The fact that they'd sat down and had a cup of tea together, and a moment later.
Is that one of the sad songs, Lindy, that you
oh yeah, but so many of them are sad.
Yeah,
you know, they really are sad. But Florence Broadhurst in particular, that's really sad.
It's sad. Is it? I just think it's matter of fact. I don't find it sad. I just think it's real, and I guess that's, you know, where we might sort of differ. Like some people find Nick Drake depressing, and I find him kind of life affirming. So I don't know. It just depends where you're at.
I like Nick Drake. He's one of my favorite artists, but then I revel in the sadness with something. So yeah,
that's so interesting.
I kind of enjoy it or something. It gives me some sort of joy. I don't know why, but yeah, it just gives me something when I listen to some, not always, but yeah, I probably am attracted to that sad songs, I think. And that's why I've liked this album so much, but I generally, you know, I like lots of different things, but I think it's a good album and I like the performances on it. And I've got one last question for you both. I wanted to ask what attracted both of you to being in a band in the first place?
In a band at the beginning, from
the first sort of what hooked you in, what got you sort of motivated in that way?
I think, I mean, my first real electric band was a group of young women. And I think the camaraderie you get from being in a band, the company, the playfulness, the mischievousness and the mischievousness and the that sense that you're a gang is really, really great. That's such a great feeling. And they're the bands that work when you feel you can be a gang. And that, of course, means you're also a gang musically on stage. So you've got to be playing as one. And it really is extraordinary to be, you know, so organic that you're all locked in with each other. And you don't get that easily. You don't get that when it's very unusual to get it when people just meet for the first time to play together.
Oh.
You know, that develops. And what about you, Rob?
I think it was just the creative side. My brother was writing songs and I was adding to the arrangements, sort of playing guitar. And then we found a couple of other players in Perth. And he was really quite sort of ambitious and lyrical and unusual. And I really just sort of enjoyed tagging along to, you know, and trying to accompany him. And then there was the excitement of seeing friends and acquaintances play on stage and getting better and you know, moving to the eastern states, making records. And I guess we got caught up in that excitement. We were friends with the scientists and with the Triffids, and they were always saying, you've got to get out of here. And Perth was, you know, very isolated at the time and had a very small scene. So there was nowhere to go. There was no record labels. There was no youth radio network, you know, and I think we watched Countdown, and that was our only sort of access to sort of new music. And then we stumbled across university radio. But I'm going off tangent a bit here. It was just the excitement of finding something new, you know, or maybe being able to travel and record and be somewhere else. So that was all very appealing to us when we were younger. And of course we did. We left Perth in the mid-80s and moved to Sydney and had a record with Hot Records, which was the same label as the Triffids and the Laughing Clowns, our heroes, and yeah, made a couple of albums there, and Amanda Brown joined us on violin, and it all sort of snowballed
from there. Yeah. Well, thank you very much for both your time today. It's been great chatting about all of these things. And your next show's in Perth And have you got many more shows after that, or is that the last one for this particular tour?
Well, I think we're going to pick up some in regional New South Wales, aren't we, Rob?
That's the plan. We do have to have a chat about that and approach our agent about that. I'm trying to write songs for this band as well. So we've got a couple up our sleeve, and we're talking about maybe having an EP sometime next year. So
we have to have an EP sometime next year, because the other thing is I want to get him overseas. I want to get him across to London, and that's my plan.
I got a message from Graham Lee during the day, and he's asking if I could be in Europe for October, November for some Trifford's Dave McComb shows. So maybe it'll all tie in nicely.
Yes. Yes, I've got a daughter's wedding in October.
Oh, you'll have to be back. Can't miss that.
There's no missing of that.
No. Thanks so much.
Well, that's very exciting, Rob. Trifford shows. Great.
Yeah.
It does sound exciting. New stuff on the horizon, and I look forward to hearing the new songs as well, and with this band that you're writing for. So thank you very much for taking the time to chat to me today, and have a good rest of your evening.
Thanks, Romana.
Thanks, Lindy.
It's been really great to meet you. See you again sometime.
Thanks, Lindy.
Somewhere in LA.
Yeah. See you. Bye.
Yeah.